The Houston Rockets have definitely surprised me this season, and I believe that they've surprised quite a few other people as well, as they are currently the 3 seed in the Western Conference. They're an offensive juggernaut, they're good enough defensively, and James Harden is putting on an MVP season. And we can start this with James because he's really the heart of this whole thing. His usage rate and ball handling and responsibility for this team is through the roof, but given how good he is at attacking the basket, playing in pick and rolls, hitting three-pointers, and drawing fouls, he is definitely the right guy for the job. And we're going to talk about how he and this team could potentially steal the Western Conference away from teams like the San Antonio Spurs, as well as the Golden State Warriors. And we already mentioned James Harden, now we can talk about the three-point shooting, which he himself is very good at, but then the talent around him is just too damn difficult to defend, with just in the starting lineup alone, Trevor Ariza and Patrick Beverley, who is a very good point guard, or off guard, next to James Harden, if you will. Ryan Anderson, who seems to have limitless range around the three-point line, as well as Clint Capella, who's the perfect big man to catch alley-oops and finish around the rim for James Harden. This is a very difficult team to defend. Then you go to the second unit. Eric Gordon has been great with James Harden and without him all season as a Sixth Man of the Year candidate. Nene knows what he's doing as a veteran backup big man who can play about 20 minutes a game and not hurt you. There's Montrezl Harrell, I don't know which one's correct, who brings you energy as the other backup big guy. Sam Decker has been a very good reserve wing for them this season. Their depth has just been a huge strength, as there's no down moments for them, and with the recent addition of Lou Williams, it seems like they have another player who can just really fit into that system well. And perhaps the most important thing, even with all that, is they've defended nicely this season. They're currently a mid-tier defensive team. My fear was they were just going to be flat out awful at that side of the floor. They've been good enough. And so now we can talk about how they would match up against the San Antonio Spurs. The first thing that needs to be said is how James Harden has played against them this season. In the 4 games they've played, he is averaging 30 points, 12 assists, 9 rebounds a game. So he's basically his normal self. First things first, you're going to have to try to find some way to just slow him down or just make his day. Not as easy. Up to this point, the Spurs have not been able to do this, but of course the regular season is very different than the playoffs, and the Spurs have the best defensive player in the NBA in Kawhi Leonard. Now, just because Kawhi will be defending Harden at times, that does not immediately mean that James is just going to be ineffective. I mean, this is a fantastic defensive player against an MVP quality offensive one. Something is going to give. I have to assume that Kawhi is going to make James uncomfortable at times, even if Harden is still going to put up some big-time stats. We'll see what happens there. The other thing that's really interesting, though, is the Spurs have always had a tough time against teams with a lot of pace. The Rockets are the 4th highest pace in the NBA, and I think, look at a big man like Pau Gasol. I don't know if he can hang around defensively in a series against Houston at all. I mean, if I was the Rockets, every single time he was in the game, I would be attacking him in the pick and roll and forcing him to try to just play some sort of defense that I don't know if he can do. LaMarcus Aldridge may be better than Gasol, but I do also question his ability to defend a high-speed offense like Houston's. And then if we look at how their perimeter guys like Eric Gordon and Lou Williams can get some easy buckets off the dribble, I mean, Tony Parker is going to be defending some of these guys, and the Spurs are smart. They'll get other defenders on them, of course. But TP is going to have to defend somebody, and I think that could be a weak spot along the perimeter. But of course, there's a flip side to this. Dwayne Dedmon is a very good defensive big man who I think would really help the Spurs playing high minutes against a Houston Rockets team that just uses the pick and roll so often. I think that is the first step. But then we also can look at the Spurs' depth, because when I was speaking on the Rockets and how good they are at going to their 7th and 8th and 9th guys, San Antonio is very similar as well. So I think in games this season where the Rockets have beaten teams with their second unit, that's not going to happen against San Antonio. I never said this was going to be easy for the Rockets. Also, they have a huge defensive hole in Ryan Anderson at the power forward position. Just like I said with Gasol, I'm going to go at Ryan Anderson as much as I possibly can, if I'm the San Antonio Spurs, because if you just look at him from a physical standpoint as well as his ability to move laterally and all that, defense is not exactly Anderson's forte. I think that's a weak point, and I think someone like a LaMarcus Aldridge, and they're probably going to get matched up on each other, him and Ryan Anderson, that's definitely a guy who he can post up on and be in pick and pops and pick and rolls and use his signature turnaround jumper over him. And then there's also Kawhi, and I don't think the Rockets really have a defender who they can just put on Leonard and feel good about it. I mean, Beverly is probably their best one-on-one defender, but he's given up, 5 or 6 inches to Kawhi? I mean, like I said, this is not going to be an easy series for the Rockets, and there's definitely exploits that the Spurs can go at. But I think the thing that's most interesting is even if the Rockets can't defend you, they don't really give a crap. They're perfectly content with just playing in a shootout, and I don't know if anybody can put up points with these guys. I mean, do we see San Antonio consistently putting up over 115 to 20 points a game in a 7-game series? I'm not saying that will happen, or it has to happen, but if that becomes the thing, Houston is perfectly capable of doing that, and I don't know if San Antonio has that in them. And for that reason alone, I think the Rockets could give the Spurs a lot of trouble. But of course, there is another top team in the Western Conference, the number 1 seed, the Golden State Warriors. And could the Rockets actually have a chance against these guys? Well, here's what I think with Golden State. The one thing that has been kind of weird with them all season is their offense in clutch moments. Last season, they were plus 110 in clutch situations. This season, they're only plus 9. And I think a big reason for that is we've seen Steph Curry say that he wants to have more aggressive offense in the last couple of minutes, which basically means give me the ball and let me run a pick and roll with Draymond. But there is the Kevin Durant factor as well. Durant is very good when it comes to getting his own shot off, and there was a moment earlier this season where Steph Curry just gave the ball to KD in a late situation and he just ran an isolation at the top of the key. So I think they haven't completely figured out how they want to run their offense late in games, and that could be very bad against a team like the Houston Rockets who knows exactly what the hell they're going to do, which is give the ball to James Harden and let him do his thing, which sounds very simple, but it's been working all this year, so... And also with James Harden, given his ability to draw contact and get to the free throw line so much, that's a huge thing to have when you're in a late game with a couple of minutes left against a team like the Warriors. If you can generate points at the free throw line, that's a way that you can stay in a game. However, it does go deeper than that. If these two teams were to meet, can Andre Iguodala slow down James Harden? I spoke about it earlier with Kawhi. Similar thing with Iguodala. I mean, I think his defense is really going to come out in the playoffs, and when he wants to be, he can still be a devastating defender. Can he slow down James, or is Harden still going to be able to get his? But also, if Draymond Green ends up on Harden, which the Warriors love to switch pick and rolls, so there's a decent chance that'll happen, especially if the Warriors decide to go with the small ball lineup. What's going to happen? Can Draymond stay in front of Harden, or is Harden still going to be able to pull off his isolation moves and just his ability to kind of swim to the basket, it seems sometimes? Is he going to be able to do that against Draymond Green when he gets switched onto him? I don't know. And also, with the amount of shooters that the Rockets surround James Harden with, if there's any team who can defend a pick and roll, provide help defense, and then still get back and close out to their guy or rotate to the next guy over and not leave any shooters open, it's the Warriors. This is the one team who just has so many very good defenders who know how to move around the floor well, and they know where their assignments are, that they may be able to survive the Rockets' barrage of three-point shooters around James Harden. But now if we go over to Golden State's offense and how the Rockets would deal with that one, I mean, once again, Ryan Anderson, they can just pick him apart, having him involved in every single play that they run when he's in the game. But again, even if Houston does not do the best job of defending what the Warriors do, with just the amount of talent, three-point shooting, and the passing that they display, like I said with the Spurs, the Rockets are more than capable as well as comfortable with just jacking the score up as much as possible to where the Warriors would just have to match them. And Golden State could definitely match whatever Houston wants to do offensively, but then it just comes down to who can score more points, and if that's the game, Houston can beat anybody. And that's why I think they are a very scary team for the San Antonio Spurs, as well as the Warriors.